20-30% decrease in their insulin sensitivity just because they were underslept. And just in that amount of time, you're literally moving somebody from totally normal to essentially pre-diabetes because of their sleep.
Wow.
Didn't change anything else. You know, I mean, that is profound.
Well, you know, Randy always has something. You know what you gotta do? You gotta get some sleep, oh yeah. Don't worry about anything else. Just live your life in bed.
Yeah. So much so that you're probably just going to fail because if the sleep isn't there that you needed, you won't succeed.
You want your prefrontal cortex to be like Tom Brady. You know, I mean, that is a disciplined PFC.
If you look at all the data, it's no wonder that we're obese metabolically. You're fighting such an uphill battle. If you want to be fighting on level ground, you've got to get proper rest. Sleep alone already sets you up for failure or success. Just like that. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining in to the Desolate Joe podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Adam Saucerman. I created this specific podcast series to be a relaxed and casual dialogue with our comedic and thoughtful co-host, Mr. Joe Williams, punctuated with relevant and lengthy dives into vital functional medicine concepts that can have a profound effect on your health and the health of your family. As always, feel free to check out our other podcast series and resources at www.desolatehealth.com, where we attempt to pursue and purvey the most relevant and cutting-edge health information in various forms to fulfill our mission of reconciliation of healthy living. Also, it is important for me to say that the content provided on this platform is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as medical advice or a substitute for professional care. I'm a licensed physician, but the information shared here does not establish a doctor-patient relationship. Always consult your healthcare provider or a qualified medical professional regarding any questions or decisions about your health or medical conditions. Do not delay seeking professional advice because of information you have read or viewed here. Now let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, I guess here we are again at the Desolate Joe Desolate Doctor.
Yes.
Whatever it ends up being.
The Desolate Dudes.
I'll let everybody know. The Desolate Doctor was just for, again, helping with the SEO or people to be able to find it. But to me, it's still just always will be the Desolate Joe.
Well, hey, man, you know, this particular part of your, you know, the world of desolateness with Adam Saucerman.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're on a Macho Me and Randy Savage kick right now.
I'm on a 90s country, 90s wrestlers kick right now. So you're going to get a dose of that today. You know, I'm just excited to be here. It's springtime. It's been a little while since this, you know, a couple 41-year-old dudes have gotten together.
That's right, man. It's been too long. I mean, it really has been too long. I've had so many other obligations and work and some other things. I feel like some of the content has gone on the back burner, but the Joe, I mean, we needed to put something out. I think it's been over a month. I'm pretty sure since me and you've posted something, maybe longer.
We've been trying to coordinate, but, you know, life happens and you're trying to do this, you know, at the right time and make time to do it, take the time to do it. So here we are. Yeah. Well, hey, we're here to talk about
whatever the Desolate Doctor
wants to talk about today.
Our segue could be that both today, unfortunately, man, I've been up since 3. And there's nothing I can do about it. I don't know. I went to bed at 9 o'clock, but got up 3. And some people's probably like, "Oh, that's good, 6 hours." Let me tell you something. And I'm gonna talk about some really important concepts today to help you understand that at least for me, it's probably not okay because of, believe it or not, because subjectively the way I feel. I mean, I know that I function well on the 7.5 to 8 hours is like kind of prime for me. Mm-hmm. But 6 hours, I can do it all day. I can do 6 hours all day. And it probably isn't really 6. I was actually probably up at 2:30. So let's say 5.5 hours, which is actually the time. We're going to talk about some studies here where the people actually had only slept 5.5 hours in the dramatic changes in their metabolism. And it has major deleterious effects. Specifically, and what we're going to focus on today will be essentially metabolism. We talked a lot about metabolism last Desolate Joe, and I think it laid a good foundation or sort of getting people's like focus or direction on this idea of insulin resistance because it plays such a crucial role in your weight. But this sort of wild card that I think has gone under the radar for a long time because everybody's looking at like activity and nutrition. But what is clear from literature is that sleep has a major undergirding to all of these metabolic processes. So much so that you can do the right things nutritionally and physically and very possibly still not see improvement, or even like you could go in the wrong direction just because of sleep disruption alone. So anyhow, we'll talk about a couple various ones, but I'm glad that, we talked at length, before about the effects of, really just insulin resistance and high carbohydrate processed food sort of diet and that positive feedback loop. But so particularly the study that we're going to talk about, we're going to touch on a couple things, but if I can drive on one point from the very beginning, if someone's like just going to check out right now, just so you know, like sleep is an important factor whenever you're trying to dial in your health in 2025, especially if you're trying to lose weight and in particularly maintain like body composition so that you're not losing a bunch of lean mass. So there was a study, it was published in Annals back in 2010 by an author, and I'll try to pronounce the name. I wrote this down because I would not be able to remove it. Nedelcheva et al. 2010. But so they literally brought in 10 people into sort of like a lab or a hospital. And what they were trying to figure out is if we calorically restrict people, meaning we're going to starve them of calories, and we change up their sleep, will it have any impact on essentially the weight loss? So, if you're sleeping more or sleeping less, will you lose more weight or potentially gain weight, or is that going to have any effect on the weight loss? But they intentionally brought them in with caloric restriction with the intent to lose weight. But they also were going to look at, does it affect the composition of that weight loss? So are you losing lean mass or fat mass? Does a sleep have any effect on that? They also looked at some hormones that are important with regard to sort of appetite and weight regulation, leptin and ghrelin. We'll talk a little bit about those. The other couple things is they looked at people's hunger as well. They didn't document as clearly, but it just seems like this recurrent thing that I see when people are short on sleep. For some reason, we go hard for carbohydrates. I don't know what it is. We are looking for something sweet and satisfying, and I guess we can try to discern that or talk about it. But so after they bring these people in, they sleep them some like a group, and each person, it's like a crossover. They get to do both 8.5 hours, or they get to do 5 hours, 5.5 hours. And most of these people they normally average around 7.5 hours of sleepish ballpark in there. But so they bring them in and they spend 8.5 hours in bed. They only end up getting about 7.5 hours of sleep. And then the others they put in bed, they have so much time in bed was 5.5 hours, but they end up sleeping, maybe it took 15 minutes total time that they weren't sleeping while they were in that bed position. But so what was shocking was that they're calorically restricting these people. They both categories lose weight. They lose about 3 kilos. And these are overweight people, healthy otherwise, don't smoke, essentially like pretty healthy. They're just overweight. They're not currently fasting. They're not super, people who are exercising all the time. It's sort of just an average Joe person who's overweight.
No offense.
So you tell me if you think this is shocking. So we talked about caloric restriction is not a fantastic way to lose weight because you lose so much lean mass. And that's goes back to this conversation. I'm not telling people one way or another about what to do with Ozempic or, any of the new GLP agonists. But particularly the caloric restriction gave about a 50-50 weight loss. Of those 3 kilos, about half of it would be lean mass and half of it was fat mass in the people who are well rested, which is pretty par for the course. Whenever you starve people, you're looking at 1/3 to half. It's going to be lean mass, fat mass. Really, it's not uncommon. It's going to be pretty close to around that 50%, somewhere between 1/3 and 50%. And that's going to be lean mass. And that's not good. Yeah. But what do you think the number was for those people who were underslept? The people who were only getting 5.5 hours of sleep over those 2 weeks with that caloric restriction. What do you think that percentage was? Just guess. I've got you set up, so now you're going to think it's must be so dramatic, but
yeah. So less sleep.
Do you think it's going to improve it? You think it's going to change it?
It's going to make it worse.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your percent?
Let's see, 75%.
It's really close. About 75-80%.
Hey, man, look at me. I'm pretty good.
75-80% of lean mass of that weight loss. It was lean mass. Do you understand how devastating that is? That's literally like
it's your muscles, bro.
I'm talking, not to be crude, but it's like you're taking a overweight person and they're just metabolically less healthy is all that just happened. Yeah. I mean, it's almost definitively, demonstrably like they're just unhealthier to some extent. They lost a little bit of weight. I guess maybe their joints are a little bit better, but are they? You've probably lost some muscle mass that's like stabilizing all those things.
You're losing support.
Yeah.
Supportive strength. So
I mean, literally, you're doing, if you're going to go through this pain heartache, which I'm not a big advocate of caloric restriction, but you're trying to lose weight and you're calorically restricting, and then you're turning around, and because you're not sleeping, you are sabotaging the whole thing. And what's crazy or what's worse is that if you look at people, and this probably only works for a short period of time in a lab, because in reality, what happens is whenever you are underslept, it changes your hormone profile in your body. So leptin is a hormone that is released or secreted by our adipocytes, our fat cells.
Leptin.
Yeah, leptin.
Not to be confused with Lipton iced tea.
No.
But leptin. So tell me again what leptin is.
Leptin is a hormone that's secreted from your fat cells.
Okay, so leptin comes out of these fat cells in your body.
Correct. So you have a steady state amount, so to speak, of leptin. It comes from small amounts from some other places, but generally it's kind of like giving you a steady state of the fat mass in the body. And your body, in some sense, is registering this. So that whenever your fat mass is the same as what it was 3 days ago, your body's like, we're good.
Yeah.
But whenever your fat mass goes down, leptin goes down, and that's a signal to the brain. It knows that we're supposed to have this much leptin circulating, but whenever it goes down, that's an indicator to the brain and the body. It's like, whoa, we're losing weight, and it
says we need food.
Erexogenic. Erexogenic is a word that it tends to be cause you to like eat more.
Yeah.
So you're literally in a state where you're far more likely to gain weight. Conversely, Ghrelin, which is another hormone secreted by the stomach, tends to get paused whenever your stomach is stretched out. But it is the opposite. High Ghrelin levels would cause you to be hungry or want to eat. And if you look at both of those in that underslept group, and this has been repeated in other studies, not specifically this one, but when they went into other studies and they looked, the Ghrelin folks, like 40% increase in Ghrelin that's circulating in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
Leptin in the underslept people is going down 10, 15, up to 20, like 20%, depending on which study you're looking at. So sleep alone already sets you up for failure or success, just like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel, this is something I've
wait, hang on.
Fire away.
Leptin, Ghrelin.
You got it.
Are they like, I know they come from two different places.
Yep.
So they're like good friends.
Yes.
They got a lot of things in common.
Yeah.
Right? So okay, Ghrelin's hanging out with me, right?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. I'm trying to wrap my head around this here. Okay. So when the Ghrelin goes, will the Ghrelin go down when I'm starting to lose weight?
So
if it will not go down.
Not necessarily. Ghrelin will end up going up.
Ghrelin goes up. Does leptin go down, or are they parallel?
Leptin's going to go down as you lose weight.
Leptin goes down. Ghrelin goes up.
Yeah, Ghrelin is a little bit more acutely affected, depending on whether you've eaten or not eaten, for sure. But yes, like in a well-fed state, Ghrelin is suppressed. In an underfed state, your Ghrelin is elevated.
Okay, so in an underfed state, if I'm not eating enough, Ghrelin's going up.
Yep, it's driving you to eat.
It's driving me to eat, probably because my stomach is a certain size.
And that's superficial, like sort of big picture glance to put it to
high level
to layman's terms.
Corporate jargon, high level, bro, high level. Let's go with a high level conversation
keeping it simple. I mean, it's just keeping it simplistic for you.
I hear the word high level 11 times a day. In my line of work.
Can I just say I don't love buzzwords. I don't love whenever, particularly, I mean, I don't spend a lot of time in the media, but I feel like whether it's news or it's social media or pop culture, whatever, there's a thing that starts and then everybody jumps on the train and says the word or says the phrase or
doesn't even make sense.
It drives me nuts. Even like if you're saying something that I like or it's something that I agree with, I still just don't love hearing over and over. They get in this rut of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I just don't like it.
Well, not to get off track, but okay, so if I'm sleeping enough.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm in a calorie deficit.
Yep.
The likelihood of me being able to lose the weight that I'm looking to lose, I don't know. I guess is it dependent on all your macro numbers?
So
not to get too far in the weeds.
No, make no mistake. Like, sure, all those things, like your nutrition still matters, fitness, energy expenditure still matters, but you have to recognize that sleep deficit alone has a complete. It will affect all of those things.
It does like a 180
dramatically.
Yeah.
So much so that you're probably just going to fail, because if the sleep isn't there that you needed, you won't succeed.
Like nothing's changing if you're not sleeping enough. Like your body's cutting off any kind of ability to see the changes that you want to see.
Well, yes, and it's
to a degree
changing you fundamentally of how you're responding. So you're taking the same situation, but just because of being underslept, it changes your metabolism because of its effect on hormones and neurologically. So literally, this is the parrot well. There's sort of other studies where they take healthy individuals, they bring them into a lab. This is a person, no diabetes, no problems, no issues. They intentionally undersleep them for 5 days to 2 weeks. And you will literally see in these people, in the ballpark, 20-30% decrease in their insulin sensitivity just because they were underslept.
Wow, that so quick too. That's
correct.
That's not even. That's a week.
You're talking 4 to 5 hours, usually what they're like shooting at for these underslept individuals, 4 to 5 hours like a night.
Mm-hmm.
And just in that amount of time, you're literally moving somebody from totally normal to essentially pre-diabetes because of their sleep.
Wow.
Didn't change anything else. Do you know, that is profound. Like that's why we're talking about today is I think that, there's a lot of people who's trying to be successful and they're trying to get their diet right and they're trying to get their, fitness right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to get, everything else, their mind right. But the role of sleep so whenever they looked at the people, same study, the degree of hunger that the person experienced in that caloric deficit, the underslept people, dramatically increases their hunger.
They're going nuts.
Also, dramatically increases their drive to, for some reason, consume carbohydrates. There's something about
it's like an energy source.
That, or maybe, we talked about prefrontal cortex long. Do you remember? Prefrontal cortex. You remember, Joe?
PFC.
Your PFC, baby. So it goes back some to the prefrontal cortex. That is your executive decision maker, the guy that has the capacity to say yes or say no, or this is just not what I'm going to do right now. And the more slept it is, the more capacity you have to say yes or say no. It's like control.
Yeah, it's your quarterback.
Correct. And when you undersleep the quarterback and he's having a bad day, you're in trouble.
Yeah, look, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I feel like my PFC, a.k.a. Dak Prescott, is letting me down. He's letting me down.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know. That was a hard jab. Yeah. And I'm jabbing myself here because I'm a Cowboys fan. But
how long? How long you been a whole life Cowboys fan?
Some Cowboys fans have to have a backstory. And go, hey, guess what? I got one. Because I'm from North Carolina, so my dad's side of the family's from Dallas. And so it was sort of it's a weird thing as a kid. And I think it happens more with boys. Like, we become loyal to something. And
sure.
there's a meme out there. It says, so I think it's from the point of view of a woman. She's like, don't worry about your man leaving you. He's been loyal to the same football team since he was 8 years old. He doesn't have loyalty issues, something like that. It's funny. But yeah. So the Panthers came along in 1994 or 5. And so it was almost like I was at a crossroads. I'm like, Dad, do I continue to be a Cowboys fan or do I pull for my home team? And he's like, you know what decision you need to make. I'm like, I didn't. I wanted to like both. Anyways, I'm a Cowboys fan. Yeah, and that's how long I've been doing it for.
Nice.
Since the early 90s as a kid. It was easy to be a Cowboys fan then because they won 3 Super Bowls.
That's right. I was going to ask you, did you just jump on the Cowboys train because they were very successful for a period of time?
That's why we see all these Patriots fans.
I mean, there's
because it's the same thing.
Sure.
And the Patriots run was so long.
Yeah.
That
it was.
You had so many fans that were like, nobody liked the Patriots. No, they didn't even make Patriots apparel that I ever saw in my life until the year like 2001 or 2002.
Somebody needs to give Tom Brady another bonus. I mean,
he's the ultimate PFC.
He changed their life. Changed the life of the Patriots.
You want your prefrontal cortex to be like Tom Brady. I mean, that is a disciplined PFC.
It is.
And I'm not plugging the TB12 method. I do have the book.
Yeah.
I hadn't read it yet. I've had it for a couple of years now. I'm like, I don't have time to listen to Tom Brady's approach.
Another point I do want to make that is useful for people, because I think people have this tendency to obsess over numbers. And this is one area where, honestly, I can say that the number itself is not, infinitely important, in that if you're sleeping, let's say that you sleep 6 hours, we'll say 6.5 hours, and you feel great, you're probably good. Mm-hmm. The one thing that seems to be interesting about the sleep is funny. Whenever they measure people's, what they're doing in the lab, because we can record objectively how much sleep did you get versus how much sleep do you, like, how good do you feel after your night of rest. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that the correlation, it is much tighter based upon how the person felt. Mm-hmm. So even though we can record, well, the person was in sleep phases for 7.5 hours, but if they felt bad when they woke up or feel underslept, they performed like somebody who's underslept, if that makes sense. So there's a closer, tighter correlation with sort of how the people are feeling with the amount of sleep that they're getting. So, it's just a really big deal that I think really needs to be put out there, that, the sleep aspect of your weight loss routine, because I think a lot of people, most of the time it's come back to weight loss. I would love to get them more focused on cardiorespiratory fitness, overall health, because I think the weight's much more of, it's kind of a, not truly a surrogate, but it follows along oftentimes.
Yeah,
because there's some big people who's in really good shape and they will live out their life. Absolutely, there's people that are much larger, can live out their life much healthier, will have much less problems. Because they got a VO2 of 70 or something, and even though they're overweight, compared to that person who their BMI is 18 or 19, but their VO2's in like the bottom quartile or something, you'd be surprised that person's likely going to outlive. And they're probably also just going to be a much more, I don't know, they're going to sleep better. They're going to like function better in the daytime. There's so many things that sort of correlate along with this fitness and sleep. Yeah.
Well, I don't know why I did that. Oh, yeah.
Is that Randy? Randy coming out? Is Randy about to get
us? See, it's in there. I told you. I don't know why that happened, but so going real quick, the BMI, body mass index, right? And your VO2, because there ain't nobody talk about VO2.
Sorry.
None of my buddies have ever said, "Hey, man, how's your VO2 today?" I'm like, what? So tell the audience what's the VO2?
VO2
is that simple. Related to BMI? Is that
no, I'm sorry. VO2, remember, it's your body's ability to consume oxygen and produce energy. They can measure it. I mean, you can. Okay. There's a couple various ways to study this, but it's your body's ability to consume oxygen. And people who are very efficient and have great capacity to make energy with oxygen, those people, and that comes through very healthy mitochondria, and they have healthy metabolisms. They have tremendous, there's, from a longevity standpoint, it is an unbelievable correlatory with how healthy, how long you're going to live with vitality. Is probably one of the best markers, is more so actually your cardiorespiratory fitness. I keep saying cardiorespiratory fitness, but same sort of box of your VO2.
So, okay. So your cardio health is similar to your VO2.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean,
you got to run all the time.
Correct. That's the first.
Doesn't
I feel
mean
like everybody, I feel like everybody's mind immediately jumps to
gotta run
the marathon, the scrawny, looks like beef jerky, like aged early, like marathon runner, though he may have a great VO2 and he also very likely will live very long time. That doesn't always have to be necessarily the person with the VO2.
Hey, you just got to be careful where he runs. He could get hit by a bus.
Yeah. So, and out real quick, and this is going back, hashing over old things, because I think, did we talk about cardiorespiratory fitness during one of the Joes?
We did, because I was talking about my workout routine and how I was like, oh man, I started running and then I would lift weights. And I'm like, now I'll never do that again.
Yeah.
I'm going the other way around.
I want to like draw back, because this is the thing that I loved about the paper, because I feel like this is the reality of life, is you've got to figure out what the reality is, because if you're functioning according to something that's not true or not the reality, eventually you're going to get smashed by reality. And that's the cool thing about the study that they were with the cardiorespiratory fitness, particularly the one that I'm referencing, is that they didn't care how much time you spend in the gym. What they cared about was, what is your VO2? That is an objective measure of your, of what your capacity is and what shape you're in. You can be somebody who's outworked somebody, but maybe you're doing it the wrong way. You're sleeping crap and you're not eating right. Your VO2 sucks. The guy who's got the VO2 of, 70, and your VO2 is 25, even though you spent more time jogging around or whatever and eating your, whatever your crazy diet you want to be on. But it's kind of like to throw the stuff out the window. What I care about is my results. Like not care quite as, it's not that you got to put in the work, but realize that there are people who, if they have a really dialed in fitness routine, that doesn't mean extra. That means just the work they do is precise and like really good to give them really good results. So that's not necessarily that they're putting more work in. They're just getting the most out. You're trying to get the most out of whatever you put in, trying to get the most out of it. Because my goal is to be here, not just say that I've worked out a bunch. Because you're generally going to, it's as a general rule, it's good to put in the time and exercise, but there's definitely people put in a lot more time and get a lot less out of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be efficient with the time and compound exercise more now, because I'm trying to. Well, time is, I don't have as much time as I used to, so I'm trying to make those.
How's the weight right now? So I think you said you were you're a little over your fighting weight last time I think we talked.
Yeah, I think it's still it's going down a little bit, but it's not like I've really.
More important, I mean, I've sad to even say like weight, like not to get focused on it, but where you at? Like, do you like muscle, and are you feeling soft right now? You're not your fittest self.
I feel pretty good, but I just feel like and that's the biggest thing, is trying to shred. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Shred. And that's where I'm going to have to really, and my wife and I are kind of looking at, and she's more dedicated than I am at the moment about measuring.
You're gonna say macros. She like measuring.
Yeah, I really think that's the differentiator right there. Is, I feel like I've got a good, workout routine.
Yep.
I feel like I've got pretty good sleep. I feel like I go to bed at a good time, wake up at a good time.
Yep.
Maybe could get a little more of that. I feel like I eat the right things, but I think I'm eating too much. It's crazy when you started measuring some things out. Even the good stuff, like Greek yogurt, for example. I have a lot of Greek yogurt in my diet.
A lot of fat in Greek yogurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think my numbers are off, so that's why I'm not looking like David Beckham on the Men's Health magazine. I saw that Men's Health magazine. I was like, man, David Beckham. I'm like, dude, let me get a copy of that.
I'm trying to keep things so dialed in. I feel like you're opening up a massive can of worms that we're gonna have to tackle on some more.
But we'll go back to VO2.
No, it doesn't have any more. I feel like we're sort of beyond. I feel like we've made the point to everybody that's listening to the Joe today. It is so serious. Take your sleep seriously. If you're somebody, and this is the reality, if you're somebody like me, for 10 years, I worked shifts. I mean, I would have to stay up all night.
Yeah, dude. Your
4 or 5 days
lifestyle was
horrible.
Tough.
Horrible. I mean, there's so many benefits of what I was doing, and it was, and I don't regret hardly any of it. I wish I could have just only worked days and got up every day at 5:30. I definitely probably would live longer, but everybody's always trying to like make sense of how much of a cost is going on right now, like the cost analysis or risk benefit analysis.
Yeah.
And I guess what I would say is I just want to make people understand how serious this whole idea is behind like sleep and how actually important it is. If you look at, industrialized America, so go back like 1930s, which we were starting to industrialize before then, but 1930s and moving on, I want to say around 8.5 hours. Like we were averaging like somewhere between 7.5, 8, I think closer to 8.5 hours pre, really revolution of industrial, all fluorescent lights and, people just working, electricity, TVs,
man.
all this activity and stuff that just can draw and keep you up later. I mean, the average American sleeps 6 hours, maybe sub 6, like average adult American. That's tragedy. If you look at all the data, it's no wonder that we're obese, because if you look at people being underslept metabolically, you're fighting such an uphill battle. If you want to be fighting on level ground with somebody, like level ground with your weight and your health, you've got to get proper rest, whatever that takes. And I'll say, I guess I could do like a little short segment, somebody who's very familiar with shift work and staying up all night.
Yeah.
You're just, face it, if you're living that lifestyle, you would live longer if you didn't live that life. It's going to have variable effect on depending who the person is and their genetics and just how they're built. Some people cope really well with that and some people don't. There are, I probably should do just a separate episode, which I guess I'll postpone to some other time. But I just feel like I don't want to drag this on forever, because I could take a whole episode and talk about shift work and all the things that you could do to try to help minimize, this dysynchrony of your circadian rhythm and the actual time whenever you're going to sleep. And I mean, too, and I'll leave this because we're still talking about the sleep yet, but people have to even understand dysynchrony would be a term like you have a normal circadian rhythm where you get a melatonin release at nighttime, and all these things it's like an orchestra playing your daily awake time and sleep time. And when you do things like scroll with your phone in front of your face right before you're going to sleep, this is demonstrated studies, you essentially will push. I was just talking with a client the other day about this. You will essentially push your melatonin release further into the morning. And, whenever you look at people subjectively, even if they got the same amount of hours, it's crazy. They're going to have way harder time falling asleep. Their sleep is, from a sleep perspective, if you're looking at her, looking at that sleep right there. Hey, baby, let me take a good look at you. If you're looking at their sleep, like architecture on like EEG or whenever they're monitoring them, it doesn't look as healthy as what it would have been if you wouldn't have put the blue light on. And two, whenever you look at people the next day, they're going to have that subjective, man, I feel horrible or hungover.
The baggy eyes.
Which, whenever I look at multiple studies, it seems like it goes back to this. It's really interesting that subjective sense of how you slept is almost more important, really, than how many hours alone.
Yeah.
But when you're getting the sub 6, there's probably few people that do great with the sub 6. There are, by the time you get to sub 5, there's plenty of people do it, but I'm just saying the data supports that you're sabotaging yourself.
They're fine on the surface, but underneath it's deteriorating. It's like I can't relate it to my job, but it's like a piece of equipment. I'm in the equipment world, so sure, the equipment's running fine, but underneath there's parts that are going to go bad, or going to go obsolete, that are going to need replacing. Obviously, you're not going to be replacing your human parts like that, but still, the point is, it's like, hey, you can get away with it, but for so long, then until it's time to, it's either going to be too late, or you're going to be where you used to be in the ER. Yeah. Maybe not that dramatic, but Anyways, all
right. I didn't even get into respiratory quotient, but that was another measure. It was super interesting fact that you can actually sort of tell what people's body fuel the body's running on, depending on how much CO2 we produce for the amount of oxygen that we take in. So you can see, they're burning carbohydrate. Essentially, they're shifted towards carbohydrate versus protein versus fat. And you can even see in these people underslept, there is a shift in the respiratory quotient showing that they're where they're burning like more carbohydrate protein. They're higher up on that respiratory quotient. That's like you're not wanting to be burning protein. So anyways, in an unfed state, you should be burning essentially fat, right? Like that we talked about the metabolism, and you sort of dip into your stores, you dig out fatty acids and you run on those, or you should run on those. But in this scenario, these people are sort of moving towards protein, like they're burning protein. Obviously they are, because they lost 80% of their lean mass. So.
Yeah. You don't want to be burning all that baby up. You know what I'm saying?
All right. Not going to kick a dead cow anymore. I mean, I just want to know.
Kick a dead cow. You could have said horse, but you had meat, protein on your mind, didn't you?
I guess so. Man, we
filet mignon.
Got so many things to talk about. We need to get a couple more Joes in, dude. I want to talk about your
we got a frequent
acquisition of protein. I want to talk about, we can talk about shift work and sleep and tricks of the trade.
You know what I think we should do?
I'm going to talk about creatine. I'm going to talk about supplements. I got a lot of stuff coming.
I like creatine. Widely studied, very safe. Anyways, we'll go back to the first shift, second shift, third shift. You should have something where you do a segment on, I don't know if there's listeners out there that are first shift. I mean, I guess that'd be a lot of second shift workers. Second shift, like the 9 to 5 or the, however it falls on the clock. But, here's what happens if you're a first shift worker. Here's what happens if you're second. Here's what happens if you're third. There's a few factors, and then how you, I don't know if you could lay out a chart and
but potentially,
some kind of chart. I mean, that might be a lot of homework.
I can tell you the graveyards, they won't love what they see.
The graveyard shift,
cancer risk, cardiovascular risk, death, like all of it. It's stacking up against you. But anyways,
but we can talk about that. The takeaway for today is I'm gonna start looking at my VO2 a little bit more.
Yeah, just look into it. Is your
breathing techniques?
Is your heart clear? I mean, does Randy have anything to say? Does George have anything to say?
Well, Randy always has something to say. You know what you gotta do? You gotta get some sleep. Oh yeah. Don't worry about anything else. Just live your life in bed.
I don't know.
Oh wait.
Don't live your life in bed.
There you go. It's actually the diabetes risk and some of that stuff. I'm not trying to reopen it, but believe it or not, if you oversleep, spend too much time, they looked at that too. Like greater than 9 hours.
Yeah.
They actually tend, like 9-10 hours, those people actually tend to have increased risk for diabetes and other things. That is getting into complicated. I think most Americans and most Westerners, Western culture, or just anybody around the globe in an industrialized modern nation, they're struggling much more with getting enough sleep as opposed to, oh man, I'm oversleeping.
Yeah, don't pull a, Charlie's granddad from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Don't pull that. He spent. What was up with that? Dad, 6 people in the bed or something. Remember that crap? That's the weirdest thing. Then all of a sudden he got up.
It's a great book, man. You should read Roald Dahl. He's like got so many. My daughter loves the books. Anyways, all right, we got to get off here. Desolate Joe, I'm so glad to have flipping produced another episode, man. It's been too long, but
man.
There's going to be plenty coming out. So
yeah, we'll just keep on listening, keep on watching. We appreciate whoever's out there listening and watching. Right. This is fun, and you might see me not wear a hoodie as it gets warmer. Finally,
I'm rocking the hoodie.
Hey, I like the hoodie. It's cozy, it's comfy.
Yeah.
But I might be rocking a t-shirt. But
I ain't never gonna take my shirt off on the show. Okay.
You're not Randy?
No, I'm not.
I'm not Randy Savage.
Thank you guys for joining in. I hope you guys got something from it today, and enjoy your week.
Enjoy your week. This is Joe Williams and Adam Sauserman signing off. Ding ding dong. Just subscribe. Click the link below because you're gonna like this.